Let me make sure that Lil Wayne song I accidentally hit is not going to play, and our theme song will.
We could always put in a guitar solo with 2 or 3 notes and just say it was featuring Lil Wayne on guitar.
That's true. Or I could do some freezestyles.
Oh, let's hear some freestyles, Jared.
The people don't get that for free. You have to go to my SoundCloud. Well, actually, SoundCloud is free.
Easy way.
Find me on Spotify.
And your Patreon.
Yeah, or the streams.
Hello and welcome to the Untranslatable Podcast. We are here today to talk about some travel hacks so you can travel on the cheap, save some money. So if you're a frugal person, today is just the episode for you, and we're looking forward to giving out some tips and tricks on how you can save a couple of your hard-earned pennies and dimes, or schmeckles, or yuan, or what have you. So stay tuned. We're going to talk about some good tips and tricks to save you a little bit of money, so hopefully you can not have to worry about your finances while you're traveling. So I have my certified CPA and financial genius here on today's episode, and my lovely co-host. What's going on, Jared?
Everything you hear on today's podcast is financial advice, and I highly recommend you take all of it.
Yes.
No, that's not true. I don't know if I can get sued for saying that.
Sign up for the Untranslatable Finance course for $9,099.99.
That's not true. But I do like the sound of that. By the way, first, shout out to Lewis Hamilton on the W, coming through, starting in third, I believe. No,
you know why he won, though, right, Jared?
Because he stayed positive.
He stayed. Exactly. You took the words right out of my mouth.
I did. I knew what you were going to say, but I wanted to say it. And listen, I'm trying to respect Bottas, but he's making it hard. He's really making it hard for me these days. Lewis did start second. Well, Bottas is the number 2 to Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton is the best racer on Mercedes, the best team. And Bottas is a pretty good driver, and he's the number 2. But he's a great number 2 because he's pretty consistent at getting like a second place or third place, which is great for the team overall, and obviously great for Lewis. But he's not really like a winner. He wins occasionally, like a race here and there. But he's never.
He doesn't have that winner mentality, or what do you mean?
I don't know what it is. He's a winner in the sense that he'll win a race here and there, but he's never a winner enough where he can put it together in a season to really have a chance
dominate
of
the whole season,
being the champion for the year.
Right. Gotcha.
So he qualified pole position, which means he starts first place, and by the end of the race he finished third, and he just cannot hold a lead. And he even the person
does he get too cocky at the very end and start cheering, and then Lewis Hamilton just goes near right by him
every time. You think he'd learn? One time he started cheering and the steering wheel yanked to the right and he went into the wall. No, but even Verstappen, who started in third place, manages to get second. I remember I was watching this race. Me and my friend watch it virtually and text each other, and I'm like, "There's no way Bottas is going to maintain this first place spot against Verstappen." And he blew it. He blew it. And I want to root for him because people really do give him shit online for being just like, the number 2 guy that can never really put it together for himself, and is just like he's just the number 2. And no one, even though that might be kind of true, nobody really wants to be so clearly defined as that for their whole career.
Well, Jared, in the words of the most legitimate NASCAR racer ever, Ricky Bobby, if you ain't first, you're last.
And that's how people treat him, especially since being second sounds great, and it is great, or being third sounds great, and it is good, but he's in the best car, and we know what the car can do because it's won multiple world championships in the hands of his teammate.
Sure.
So it's just like, I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, we need to get someone.
If they switched cars, do you think Hamilton could still beat him?
They have the same car.
Oh, okay.
The teammates have exactly the same cars.
Okay.
Yeah. So we know exactly what the car can do. And so sometimes I'm just like, man, there are like younger, more like people that are like, that seem to have a lot of experience and gung ho that would be interesting to see in that seat. But sometimes I was like, come on, Bottas, make it at least interesting. Like, I don't know. It's just it's aggravating sometimes because even I love Lewis Hamilton, but it's still aggravating. It's like, yeah, but I still want to see him compete. He just like walks by his teammate in the same car.
That sounds kind of like when Roger Federer was in his prime, where he just, it was like everybody he'd play, exactly. He'd like kind of waltz out onto the tennis court, play his amazing game, and then just walk out without even breaking a sweat.
And it's not even just Lewis Hamilton, who you kind of expect to do that. He's the best. But the second team is Red Bull. They have like the second best, pretty close to like a very competitive car against Mercedes. But Mercedes still probably has like the best car. And even this one of the best racers second best racers in the league is Verstappen on Red Bull, and that's why I said it when I first said it. I wasn't even thinking about Lewis, who was behind both of them. I was like, there's no way, like Verstappen is going to get past him because he's just more aggressive, and he did. And I'm like, yeah, see, this is annoying sometimes. It's starting to get annoying. But anyway, I didn't mean to talk about it this long. I didn't mean to talk about it. But I don't. It just happened.
Hey, shout out to Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, that was exciting, though.
Getting the win,
that's always good to see. That's always good to see.
Right? You know what else is good to see, Jared?
What's that, Chad?
The sun go down because you can just relax and chill.
Oh, wow.
You know why that is, Jared?
Why's that?
Because I have tonight and tomorrow night off from teaching because of the May Day holiday.
Okay, I got nervous for a second. I thought there was a problem.
Right, there's no problem here. Jared is also
because of the May Day.
In the cockpit right now, or the control center. But yeah, so May Day. What's interesting though, Jared? So first of all, the way this came up. Well, let me give you some context because this was before we really started the show today. We were talking about it for a second, and you mentioned that you were totally unaware of it, and I totally was too before this class. So before I went to teach my class last week, I get a message from my supervisor in China, and she's like, just so you know, you'll have this day from this day, there won't be any class, and students will have a 5-day holiday. And I'm like, oh, what is it? And she's like, it's May Day. And I was like, oh, interesting. And I was just like, well, it's a holiday in China. It's, whatever. Yeah. I have the time off. I didn't really think too much of it. But then, a couple days later, I had one of my lectures. And my student asked me, hey, do you know the origins of the holiday? And I was like, well, no. And he said it originated somewhere close to you. And I'm like, what? Like, you guys are celebrating this over in China. How is this?
Close to you guys in Michigan?
Well, and so he goes, this is a place that you've told us you can drive to. And I'm like, all right, I'm trying to think. Like, well, I told them I can drive to
quiz
Detroit.
You? Is this why you always quiz people? Well, why you always quiz me?
Exactly.
Guess what? Okay, yeah.
This is also a podcast, Jared, and we need to have a conversation. So sometimes it's fun to give you some quiz stuff. But anyways, and as you've said, and I've said before as well, I like to keep you on your toes.
But I'm surprised to hear that your students speak like this. I like speak, like in quiz manner towards you.
Yeah, well, I mean, they don't always, but occasionally they'll answer with some questions, I guess. If that makes any sense. And so turns out, Jared, that it started in Chicago.
Okay. So what is it?
So
what is it? How did it get there?
So May Day, and this is according to Wikipedia, is a public holiday in some regions usually celebrated on May 1st or the first Monday of May. It is an ancient festival marking the first day of summer. Check out our previous episode, by the way, about summer leisure activities, and a current traditional spring holiday in many European cultures. Dancing, singing, and cake are usually part of the festivities. In 1889, May Day was chosen as the date for International Workers' Day by socialists and communists of the Second International, to commemorate the Haymarket Affair in Chicago, which was actually a bombing, Jared, in Chicago that took place. And it began as a peaceful rally after this tragedy. So that's what the holiday comes from. And so
it's a big European thing too.
It is, but I had never heard of it before.
Yeah, I don't remember it either. We have been in Europe in May.
Right.
I don't really have any real recollection of this. Certainly no cakes. I would remember cakes.
Oh, for sure. I would, especially if I was in the Czech Republic. They have some great cakes over there.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, this. I'm going to mark this in my head. We get cake on May Day.
Okay, but see, you know what though, Jared? It was right in front of our faces this whole time in Germany and Austria and also Czech Republic. They have the May trees, the Maibaum. You know that really long, skinny tree they usually have? It usually is this long, skinny tree, and then they have like a ribbon or some type of decorative thing on it. The May tree.
It was in front of us the whole time?
Meaning, well, I've definitely seen the May trees before when I was in Europe. And I just never put two and two together. I just thought it was the name of the tree.
I never... I see.
See the connections?
These streamers hanging from like trees and stuff, you mean?
Yep.
You're not saying a specific kind of tree.
Well, it's like a specific. They put it up in like somewhere in a special spot, usually in towns, in like Germany,
I don't really
Austria.
remember this either. Like okay. I can say that I kind of do, but I feel like I'd be lying. You know?
Okay.
Like I feel like if I have seen this, it would have been at like what was that amusement park in Vienna.
You know
that place. Is that yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, but I feel like I'd be lying. You know, I'm not. But I'm happy. Are you going to celebrate anyway your May Day? May Day.
Other than getting vaccinated, I guess not. No.
Well, you already done. Oh, right, you did get vaxxed. I was wondering why our connection was so strong right now.
Yeah, got the 5G, bro. It's only 2.5G before this.
It's making sense now. Okay, you're crystal
Jared,
clear.
I will tell you exactly what I'm going to be doing with those 2 evenings free. I've already started to put the window screens in for my van, so I can have them cracked open quite a bit during the evening and get that airflow going.
Now, let me ask you this. I've been thinking about this a little bit. Have you considered any performance update modifications? Could you put like a supercharger on it?
I mean, I would love to. Dude, that engine is so damn slow. I would
exactly.
If there were any mods I could put on it that weren't super expensive. Oh, for sure. Well, I mean, are you writing these mods down, Jared? So you taking notes or doing something?
I'm looking to see if there's aftermarket superchargers.
And then can we get a lift kit? Put some of those all-terrain tires on it.
Let's see. Oh no, I wouldn't. No, yeah.
Can we put a nicer exhaust on it? Make it really loud.
Yeah, but that won't add any sort of speed. You'll just sound like a Honda
Just
Civic.
look ridiculous, right?
as I pass you in my Volt,
right? Try to be stealthy, and it's just.
It doesn't seem like that's a great idea.
No, probably not.
Oh, actually, there is one.
Could you put a supercharger on it?
Yeah,
Would that be hard to do?
I don't think so. I'm sure the engine's pretty easily accessible. There's a supercharger here it's $5,000 for the kit. But yeah, there's no in Summit. That's a legitimate. Certainly a legitimate provider of goods.
Perfect. Let me just put half the cost of the van in the engine for how much extra horsepower?
You know, it'll be funny because at that point it'll probably be like as quick as like your Crown Vic. No, honestly, it'll probably still be slower than your Crown Vic.
Right.
But at least it won't be dangerously slow.
Right.
No,
that
that's
thing,
probably,
is
pointless.
For sure dangerously slow. Like you have to, if you're getting on the expressway, you have to really plan.
Yeah, you have to know where you're going.
And a lot of the times what I do just to err on the side of caution is if it's close, I slow down and let the cars pass me by because you're not going to win any races in that thing. I think it's a 2.0. Yeah, it's a really slow engine.
Yeah. Well, you know.
But didn't buy it for speed.
Yeah,
right.
This is not a race
car. Not trying to do any drag racing.
You're not Lewis Hamilton.
That's true, Jay, but I do like to stay positive.
Exactly. And you're staying very positive and realizing the limitations of your vehicle.
Exactly. But hey, we're trying to make the most out of it. And so those bug screens are going in. I got one window done, so I have 3 windows left.
How long does this take?
About 20 minutes. I mean, all you do is cut out the Velcro, cut out the screen. Okay. I'm probably going to find a way to, so the Velcro attaches to the screen just with like a sticky adhesive on the back side of the Velcro, right? But I want to put something on the back end of it as well, just so it sticks and it's a little sturdier. If that makes any sense, because right now it's kind of flimsy because it's just a strip of Velcro and, a screen. So, but we're getting there. So,
okay. That's very exciting. That's very exciting.
I'm excited. You know what else is exciting, though, Jared?
Those untranslatables.
You better believe it, baby.
God. And they're so exciting. Oh, okay. Those untranslatables. I've never moved so fast through my files in my life.
So untranslatables are idioms, proverbs, sayings, axioms that don't always translate on a one-to-one basis into English. And I will get us started today, Jared, with an untranslatable in Español, and this is no estar católico.
No. Is that I'm not Catholic?
Very good. Or to not be Catholic. But yeah.
Oh, right. That's the infinitive, estar. So it's like...
Sí, señor.
Yeah. So it's not I'm not Catholic. It's just... So yo no soy católica would be I'm not Catholic.
Mm-hmm. Is it soy or estoy? Because it's estar.
No, it's soy. Because isn't it yo soy? Isn't it soy? Isn't that the like for I?
Could be. It's been a long time since I've looked at any Spanish.
I think
verb
I'm right. Let us know on Twitter and Instagram. But I think I'm right. Anyway, I'm to not be Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
So could one say I'm not Catholic or you're no Catholic or something like that? It's interchangeable to anyone like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is it just like saying? Is it like in English we have a untranslatable where it's like I'm no saint or that person's no saint?
That's a good guess, but no.
Okay.
No. Let me give you a Spanish example, Jared. And I can
someone's
translate
a liar.
this for
Is that
you.
saying someone's a liar or untrustworthy?
No. Here,
okay.
let me give you this example here. Venga, vuelvo a mi casa. Es que no estoy. I was right. Estoy muy católico. All right, I'm going home. I'm just not feeling very Catholic.
I still think you can say yo soy, by the way. I'm just not feeling very Catholic. Maybe I'm wrong. Or soy.
Well, there's two verbs to be in Spanish. I do know that much.
Okay. I see. So maybe okay. Yeah, neither of us are pros. I don't know why I'm acting like I know what the hell I'm talking about. I had like 3 half lessons like 2 years ago. So it's just like I'm not up for it. Like I'm not like I'm sort of like like you just got vaxxed up. Like, I just got vaxxed up. I'm no Catholic.
Yeah, it means to not feel well or to feel unhealthy.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So to not feel Catholic means to feel okay. I guess that kind of makes sense. Mm-hmm. If you're not Catholic, something's I guess to a Catholic person, something's seriously wrong.
Right. No kidding.
My first untranslatable is Tongan. Are you familiar with Tongan, the island of Tonga?
Okay. Is that near? Is that in like I have no idea where that is.
Come on, say it with your chest.
In Polynesia.
It's a Polynesian kingdom. Okay. And it's it's an island that is sort of in the area. I guess I imagine the continent that you would call that would be Oceania.
Yeah.
And it's far kind of off of Australia. Anyway, my first untranslatable is Tongan, and I'm going to go for this. It's kind of long, but let's see how I do. So I actually thought this was going to go a lot better than it is going. I feel like I said it earlier, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I can pull this off. Alailewa, Moana, Muziale, Mpalailewa, Musique.
Something about music.
No. It's no.
Damn.
Musica. No. This language I don't think has any relation to our our Western languages. I'm gonna guess. I'm just guessing.
Okay.
But I'm imagining that there's not a lot of relation there. Any orphan gets advice when the parents of a child advise their child. You probably could have. It's a little wordy. A little wordy.
So
Any orphan gets advice when the parents of a child advise their child. When a parent advises their own child. Let's just say it that way. You don't have to do that.
Just
extra.
means to make the world a better place. You got to help others to make the world a better place.
No. It's a little more literal than that. It has to do with taking advice. Any orphan gets advice when parents advise their own children.
But how would the orphans get the advice unless they're friends with those children? So you got to listen to your friend's advice?
Imagine the orphans heard it. Imagine they hear a parent giving advice to their own child. I think that's implied.
They would wish they had that type of advice? I don't know.
You should always take advice no matter where it comes from, is essentially what that means.
Oh, okay. All right. I like that. That's good.
So even if it's not directly directed at you, you could still benefit from it. That's what they're saying.
Okay. That's a good one. I got some Brazil Portuguese. That's probably not how you say that. But anyways, I have some Brazilian Portuguese for you. A batata tá assando.
Okay.
The potato is baking.
Is that like you're making me angry? Someone's pregnant?
No, it's not a bun in the oven. Although that would be funny, wouldn't it?
The potato is baking. I'm on my I'm on my last sort of, what is it? I'm on my last nerve. I'm up to here, as Charlie says in Always Sunny.
I mean, kind of. Yes, you're so close, Jared. Let me see if I can try to steer you in the right direction here. Like for example, say you're chilling on the beach, and then you see the water line start to recede, and then you hear someone yell from the other side of the beach, "The potato's baking! The potato's baking!"
Does that mean like it's like this is like the calm before the storm, essentially. Something bad's about to happen.
There we go. A disaster is on the way. Yeah, disaster's on the way. Something bad's going to happen.
So are you implying like that means a big tidal or like waves are going to come or something?
Tsunami. If the beach starts to recede, right? If it slowly starts to recede, I think like not just a little bit, it has to be quite a bit.
Sure, like noticeably where you're like walking, and it's like usually this is at 3 feet or whatever.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. I actually took a class specifically called Natural Disasters in college. You'd think I have a little bit more insights into this, but I don't.
It's been a little while since college.
That's true. That's true. Thank you. That is true. I do have another Tongan untranslatable though.
Give it to me.
And it is Buyani bu nona amunyo. A relish tastes good because of the salt. So, like, I think,
relish tastes good because of the salt?
Mm-hmm.
So this is when, like, someone or something, like, something good happens unexpectedly, but for, like, I'm trying to think of a way to describe
Here's an
it.
example. Maybe before we start the podcast, I remind you, Chad, remember, a relish tastes good because of the salt,
Make you co-host?
Yeah, that's exactly what that means. It means to make someone co-host on Zoom. Maybe you're telling us like reading something or telling a story on the podcast, and I would say, Chad, remember a relish tastes good because of the salt.
Wrap it up. Hurry it up.
Yeah, but better than that. Essentially, yes, but in a more meaningful way than that.
End it with a bang.
Tastes good because think about food. When you add salt to it, what does it do?
I mean, it makes it saltier. It adds a flavor.
There we go. So now I'm saying to add flavor to what you're saying.
Spice things up.
A story becomes interesting when people exaggerate things or add flavor to it.
Oh, exaggerate. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So it's make a story interesting, essentially.
Okay.
By adding some pizzazz to it or some salt to it, some flavor.
Okay. I like that. That's a good one. Well, my last one for you today, Jared, is Brazilian Portuguese, and it is descer a dolorida. Bring down the painful one.
Jeez, that's intense.
You know, Jared, we go to Usudu in Prague. We have our 10 Pilsners fresh from the tap.
Oh,
and then I go up to the barkeep and I say, "Bring down the painful one." Don't worry, Jared. I got it. Bring down the painful one.
Is that like a dad way of saying like I'll take the bill?
Yes, sir.
That definitely sounds like a dad joke at Chili's after you've had a few too many of their special little daiquiris or whatever that they sell.
Exactly.
There. And you're like, "All right, Sally, bring down the painful one. Got to go back to work," or whatever whatever they would say.
Because that's where you need to go after 2 or 3 daiquiris or whatever. But yeah, I thought that would be fitting for today's topic because we want all of our listeners to avoid having to pay lots of the painful ones by saving some money while traveling. And I tell you what, Jared, some of this has kind of come to my mind just because I've been thinking about, as more people get vaccinated and travel regulations begin to change, people are going to start traveling again, regardless that we're still in a pandemic, people are still going to, go out and do some traveling. But there's always a way, I think, if you're smart about it, to save some dollars.
Just to be clear, not me.
You're not going to do any traveling?
No.
Never say never, Jared.
I mean, I did go to Louisiana. That was risky. But I have no interest in, hopping on planes or anything. Or, going, I don't know. As I said last time, I still don't want to get COVID.
Yeah,
and, you can still get it. But anyway. Yeah, for sure. People are still gonna, these are evergreen things, and it's not even. I don't even think it's just about the fact that people are gonna start traveling again. I think that I'm always looking for ways to save a buck or two.
Oh, for sure. And before the pandemic, I would say we were somewhat seasoned travelers. Between the two of us, we've been to four of the 7 continents. I'd say that's pretty good.
4 of the 7. What is that? What? Europe, Asia?
United
North
States. America.
I've been to Africa.
Exactly. That was the 4th.
Oh, okay. That is 4, yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Oh, yeah, that is true.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, have I been? No, Eurasia would be, I think, furthermore in Russia.
But Eurasia
I think Mongolia
is
not a still Asia. Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Eurasia is not a continent. Europe is a continent. Asia is a continent.
So what do they call?
Eurasia is a portion of the world, but it's not a continent.
Okay.
That's I think that's just an explanation for that part of the world.
That region, maybe.
But I think those countries are still like the countries that are in Eurasia are still firmly either in Europe or Asia.
Right. That's true.
On a map.
Right. Anyways, this isn't geography lessons. And I would fail that right now at this point. Anyways,
I got an A in 6th grade geography. I killed that class.
Nice.
Not to brag.
Let's talk about some cheap travel tips. My first one for you, Jared, is travel in a way where the way to get there is incredibly affordable. So what I mean by this is travel somewhere nearby where you can either drive with your car, take a cheap train over there, something like that. Because if you're traveling somewhere really far away, most likely the costs will begin to add up to get there, right?
Yeah. I always tell myself that I need to spend more time discovering the wonders within my own state, but I never really do. I still haven't really experienced that much. The last trip I did in Michigan was to Ludington, over a little bit over
west
a year
side
ago.
of the state.
But I've been there before. That wasn't even a new place for me.
Right.
So I always say I'm going to do that, and now is a great time to do it when I specifically have zero interest in going, getting on an airplane. And trains aren't really that convenient around here.
No,
unless you're going to Chicago specifically.
and that still can be iffy. But there are a lot of other countries where I think the train system is pretty decent. Also, I mean, for me, the reason why I visited Prague so often when I was living in Chomutov was it was, I think I paid like a $5 or $6 bus ticket, and it was like an hour 45 bus ride. I'd go early in the morning, usually on a Saturday, sleep for the hour and a half or hour 45 minutes on the bus.
You can sleep on a bus?
Oh yeah, but see, I'd always book a back seat by the window so I could, lay my head on the side of the bus as we would go.
I can't really sleep on airplanes either. To be like, I can't sleep in that sort of space. It's not just a bus thing, but I certainly remember trying to sleep when I was on that bus, and it was rough.
Oh, for sure. I mean, yeah, it's not for everybody. Sleeping on different types of transportation.
That would not stop me from doing it. If it were financially a better option, the fact that I wasn't going to sleep very well wouldn't stop me.
Right. I do think it's important to mention, though, too, Jared, when you travel in general on the cheap, usually what you lose is time and comfort, I would say, a lot of the times, right? So, for example, if we want to even take like a cheap flight, sometimes for dirt cheap flights, you have like 2 or 3 connections. Then you have to really decide whether or not all that extra time and effort is really worth the cheaper airfare, right?
Sure.
But one thing that my family has done for years is when possible, we've always flown out on a Tuesday or Wednesday because generally the airfares are a lot cheaper during those days.
Yes. Also, in addition to that, booking on a Tuesday or Wednesday, those are the best days of the week to book a flight.
Speaking of booking hacks, Jared, do you know a couple other things you can do to really? You kind of have to fish around a little bit.
We can have let's talk booking hacks. I have a few things on booking hacks.
Okay, let's do it.
First of all, yes, to the don't like I at the very least, sometimes I'll say a Tuesday or a Wednesday is a little tough if you're trying to, but at the very least, if I'm doing a long weekend trip, I'll take the day off and try to leave on a Thursday rather than a Friday. Even small steps like that, I think, make a difference. And then like come back on a Monday rather than like a Sunday or something like that. I think even those things do make small differences. Even though I do agree, and I have heard that Tuesdays generally are the best day to book and to fly out.
Right.
Another one that I do is I personally have. I don't think I could probably count on one hand the amount of times I've booked a flight on the actual found a flight through the actual airline's website. I'm always using some third party, aggregator of flights. I can barely remember what I even use now. I mean,
which one's my favorite?
Yeah, I do. I do know what it is. And this is like the hipster European choice, the Skyscanner. Is that what it is? Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yep. Skyscanner is my all-time favorite.
I've used Skyscanner. I don't understand why you love it so much, to be honest with you.
Because I've gotten dirt cheap flights from it. Okay, that's why.
I mean, that's a good reason.
I got a round-trip flight. Now, granted, this was all the way back in 2013, so it's been a while. But I got a round-trip flight.
You're brand loyal. I respect it.
To and from Paris, from Vienna, Paris, Vienna, for I think €40.
I mean, that's a good price.
With carry-on luggage.
So this is all because of one hour and a half flight you took 10 years ago almost. I thought this would at least have been some sort of international deal.
Where do you think I found our flights to Amsterdam all those years ago? Also Skyscanner.
I mean, I understand. I just find it funny
those are fairly cheap.
I just find it funny that you're still like 2013. Listen, I looked on Kayak. That shit was like $70. Skyscanner, $40.
That's
I was
right.
like, and for some reason, I thought you were going to compare, like, I was going from the U.S. to Beijing, and it was a $400 difference. I'm never going back.
Right.
But I hear you. Listen,
not quite,
I would
but
probably
that's
do it
where
for
I
me
go
too.
to find the cheaper flights.
To be honest
and I
with you,
found some good ones.
I'll go to multiple. I usually start at Kayak, and I'll tell you why. There's no other reason than I think they just have good branding. I honestly think they're the one that's just always in the top of my head.
They got that rent-free headspace in there, Jared.
Living in my head rent-free is
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
They really are, because they're just always in my head. And, also because I actually have booked a few flights through there, so now I'm stuck in. No matter how many times I unsubscribe, I'm stuck into their loop of emails. They do live in my head rent free. Although I do think I'm done with the emails from Kayak. But anyway, but I do check other ones like Kayak, occasionally Expedia, but I feel like I never get a good deal from Expedia. But I do look at Skyscanner. I feel like I learned about that one from you. Another one I have is I subscribe to and you can get paid. I only have the free version, but you can get paid, and it's a little bit better. To a
you can get paid, but there's a paid version
you
that
can
you
pay.
for.
Yeah, there's a paid. You can pay. Sorry, I opened my email so I could figure out what it was called, and I got distracted because I got another bite on my car, bro. Oh, here it is.
Nice.
So it's Scott's Cheap Flights.
Okay.
And there's a paid version or a free version, and they just constantly, like, for example, I just clicked on it didn't take me long to scroll through my email to find the latest one, and here's a flight to Portugal from, I can't see from where. From Chicago to Portugal for $341. Normally it would be $800 plus. They're saying so. They just constantly
a worthwhile difference.
A flight from Grand Rapids, Michigan, bro, to Belize.
Nice. Okay.
Belize City, Belize for $336. We could take a 2-hour drive to Grand Rapids, which is got to be one of the easiest airports to get into because small airports are the best, bro.
Oh, they're great.
You just walk in. The
Lansing
thing
Airport's awesome for that reason
beeps,
too.
And they're just like, just go ahead, it's fine.
Yeah. Yep. But then if you get there too early, like there's nothing to do.
Well, yeah, that's certainly not my problem. When I know I'm going to a small airport like that, I can call TSA and be like, hey, I'm on the flight that's like right there. Could you just tell the pilot I'm like 2 minutes away, bro?
Right.
I'll park and be at the plane in 3 minutes.
Exactly.
So yeah, I love Belize City so that's one that I love. And you know what I love? Usually what I love about it, and sort of my rule when it comes to travel, is I have periods in my life, I feel like, where, like I know certain trips I'm going to take. Like I'll usually go to Louisiana at least once a year for either Thanksgiving or Christmas to see my family or whatever. But other than that, I know that like I'm either in a mode where it's like I'm ready to buy a ticket or I'm not. And so like, but it's never, but it's not, doesn't mean I'm like actively looking. So that's why I like to but I'm like, but I could, and I'm ready to go somewhere, but but I'm not like pressed. So that's when it's nice to have the Scott's Cheap Flights, and it just gives you more than anything. It just gives you an idea of like, because I think that it's also like an indication of cheap like fares,
Sure.
Like from there you can then go look on just various other sites and be like, interesting. So is it cheap to go here at this time or something like this? So that's why I like that too. Do you have any other booking?
For sure.
Okay,
for sure.
Please.
Another one that I found this one after doing a little bit of research, and this is interesting, but I've read from quite a few different travel websites where if you book something online, use a private browser window or clear your cache and all of your cookies, because what will happen is it will show the cookies or whatever will show the prices you've been quoted and then give you similar prices.
It's kind of like when you're shopping for a car, you never want to make it outwardly apparent to the salesperson that you want the car. And so, like, as soon as you've made it outwardly aware to the algorithm that you're looking for this flight, then I this might sound a little conspiracy, but I think prices immediately will go up for you specifically,
right?
Because it now it knows and it's like more. I don't know. I just feel like the algorithm does not work in your favor in that sense,
right? The other kind of tech related advice or tip is also if you have a VPN, you can
that's good.
Basically hide your IP to or basic not really hide, but make it look like your IP is in, I don't know, South Korea when you're booking a flight to Seoul, and maybe you'll get a cheaper rate, for example.
Interesting. So I wonder, I have obviously a personal computer which I do I do all my personal stuff on, and I have a work computer which I really only do work stuff on. I'm not even logged into
for the most part.
I'm not even logged into my personal. Yeah, for the most part, I'm not even logged into like my personal email on it. But I wonder, even if that's because obviously it has a VPN. I wonder even if that sort of VPN would have the same benefit as like one of those third-party VPNs that you buy.
Well,
or does it still because it still says I'm in a certain location, which is in Michigan.
Correct.
Okay,
that's the difference.
That's
you're
true.
not. Yeah, a work VPN, because I have that for my university as well, where I work, and it's kind of the same thing. Is it makes it seem like you're on campus when you're not.
Exactly.
Yep.
Right.
So you would want like ExpressVPN is one, NordVPN is
like
another
third party one that I buy separately, because that just makes it. Then it doesn't say. Then it's like it can't make it clear that I'm anywhere specifically.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I had all those subscriptions when I was in China. I'll have to see if I can even get any of them to work. But I've since gotten rid of.
I'm sure they.
I only bought that year subscription when I was back in China, so the subscriptions are all.
Yeah, well then you could make it work if you paid, but I imagine they're past their time.
But yeah, so that's another tip though. I might have to try that at some point when I start doing some more traveling.
The incognito
international. No, VPN.
Oh yeah.
VPN.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's kind of a cool one. In terms of booking, here's another hack though as well that I know has helped my parents out in the past when they've traveled, is if you're booking somewhere, instead of checking on the website, actually call. So whether it be Airbnb, VRBO, a hotel, actually call and speak to someone, because there were a couple times where my parents got some like upgrades for speaking to somebody, and I don't really know what the heck my mom said, but yeah.
That does sound like a great tip. My instinct, everything in my instinct is like, let's do everything to avoid having any like calls.
People to people, right?
Yeah, especially calls like where I have to go through any sort of system or anything. I'm like, I don't want to, but I believe it. I do believe that would work. Maybe I consider that the quote unquote convenience tax, where it's like, I'll just take that. Whatever extra I have to pay not to have to talk to people, I'll just do it.
Right. But I do think sometimes you might be able to get, I do remember when I was in Berlin and I spoke with the receptionist about extending my stay, I actually looked it up and it was cheaper. I don't know how, but it was cheaper after talking to her and having her extend my stay, rather than if I would have booked it online. It was $10 less, but still, I mean, if you're staying 3 extra days, that's $30. It might not sound like a lot, but that could be, couple tasty meals. So
for sure.
It adds up in the long run. That's for sure. But yeah, anyways, in terms of booking, I would say those are kind of the main tips. Use some type of booking, good reputable booking search website, Skyscanner, Kayak, what have you. When possible, use incognito browsing or use a VPN and kind of test out the waters and flights from there. To my knowledge, there's nothing illegal about purchasing something using a VPN.
Of course not. Why would that be illegal?
Right.
You paid for it legally, didn't you?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
As far as I know.
I don't think they care if you get it through the dark web if you pay for it legally.
Right. And sometimes, you never know, but in some rare cases, you might be able to get a better deal by talking to someone directly. But, that really depends on the place and their policies and the people you're talking to.
Yeah, but for like a flight, you mean like calling the airline?
I would say more a hotel.
I see.
Actually calling the airlines or talking to... actually, you know what? Calling the airlines, I had a few friends that were in China where they couldn't get it logged in and they couldn't do it online, but they spoke Chinese. So they actually called the airline and got way faster service that way. But that might be a rare occasion.
I remember one time where calling really worked in my favor, and like talking to a person really worked in my favor. I was going to Louisiana for my aunt's funeral. And I got stuck in Atlanta, and the flight got canceled, and there was no flight. Dude, that was the worst trip, and that was the worst.
You missed
trip.
the funeral, right?
Well, not even that was bad, but the actual trip, I mean, like the process was terrible. So anyway, I called and because they were saying, they're like, all right, well we can't refund you, but we'll give you like a credit for like another flight or whatever. And I was like, I don't want a credit. Like there's no reason. Like I'm not going on vacation. I wouldn't have booked this flight if it weren't specifically for this purpose.
Right.
I was like, I don't want a credit. I was like, you guys did this. There was some reason why it was fully their fault. I don't remember exactly why. But so anyway, so I finally called someone, and they're like, well, you know, we can't just give you a refund. There has to be a good reason. I was like, well, the only reason I'm doing this trip is for my aunt's funeral, and now you're saying the first flight out is tomorrow at blah, blah, blah time, which means I'm going to get there, you know, as her funeral is starting or whatever. So I can't really go, you know. And the lady on the phone was just like, oh, all right, well, we'll issue the refund. And it's so annoying too because it is that easy. Like it is, I feel like it is that easy for them to give you the refund. They just do everything in their power not to.
True.
But then in addition to that, so that night, all the flights were canceled for that night, and I was like, I'm not sleeping in this airport. And so I booked a hotel, but I messed up. You know, it was like 1 a.m. at this time, and I messed up, and I booked it for the next day, which means you can't check in until whatever like 3 o'clock.
Please tell me you were able to cancel that.
Yeah, I was able to cancel it, but then I just had to go back and sleep in the airport. And I'm not one of those people that can just lie down on the floor in an airport or like lie down across chairs like that.
Yeah,
so
me
I was
either.
essentially just like sitting in a chair, just bobbing my head all night long. So that was shitty. But anyway, yeah. So calling does help, is what I'm saying. Like I did get my money back. So,
oh, for sure. Another thing though, too, Jared, related to making purchases for travel, when possible, use some type of credit card that either has, you know, some type of rewards, points, or even frequent flyer miles or something like that. Because I think in the long term, especially if you're planning on doing a lot of traveling, that can be a great way to maximize your money and hopefully save some in the future as well.
Do you remember we did an episode about travel credit cards with Don?
With Don, yeah, I do.
And I went to a website that just had like the top travel credit cards, and I literally just read the explanation of like the perks of each credit card. And he was like, oh yeah, I believe that's the Chase Sapphire. I believe that's the Visa Travel. I was like, yeah, you're right. That you got like most of those right just by like the perks that come with it. But yeah, so there are certain people that are like super like into credit cards, you know, and like playing the game. I'm not into playing the game of credit cards, but I could certainly do simple things to just maximize my spending for sure with credit cards, because like I have like one credit card that gives me like, you know, a certain amount off on like a certain thing, like, and you can choose between like a couple options, but it's not really like, you know, like one of those like it's not like a rewards credit card really, you know, like to the level of like these travel cards that you could get. Do you ever? I don't want to. I'll just ask. Do you ever think about like credit card points and stuff like that? Yeah, I know.
No,
I don't want to assume, but I knew the answer.
No, I'm not. No, I mean the one of the 2 credit cards I have, it does have rewards points and stuff like that. But
you don't do really any sort of put any thought into like maximizing your points usage. Yeah, me neither.
No,
and really we should.
Yeah, we should.
Like especially if it's just like, because a lot of them it's just like it's just really maximizing the usage of just like normal stuff that you do every day, like grocery shopping or something.
Gas,
you don't grocery shop, but yeah, buying gas or even stuff like that, or even like going to restaurants or something like that, and it adds up over time. But like you know, I don't know. I don't care. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't care that much.
Right.
Here's one that I saw that I never really thought of, and I don't know if I've ever really done. I'm going to ask if you've done this.
Okay.
Make a stop, one of your first stops at a local grocery store.
I've done that a couple times when I've traveled some places in the Czech Republic. Let's see here. Where else? Probably. Did I do that in China?
When you so like you know your place is going to have some sort of mini fridge or something like that, and you'll get just like some essentials. So okay, which is sort of an
Just
obvious
some
idea.
snacks.
Or even at the because that seems obvious to me, because you know, especially when we've traveled or when I've traveled in general, and it's just like for fun. A lot of times, breakfast kind of seems like a pointless meal to do, but also, you know, a lot of the point of a lot of my trips it usually involves a lot of walking. So the idea of having just like simple breakfast foods ready to go that'll just like fuel you a little bit.
Gotta fuel up.
Seems like an obvious idea instead of just like, going to some bakery and just, buying, just, kind of pointlessly, spending on stuff like that. So that's actually something that I don't know if I've really thought that much about, especially since most of my stays are now at Airbnbs and stuff these days, more than hotels, I would say.
Right. Yeah, but that's even better. I mean, if you're staying at an Airbnb,
exactly.
It makes way more sense.
Even more reason, because you're more likely to have a good-sized fridge, especially in the U.S.
It was funny, in the Czech Republic, a lot of the times I would meet up with David when we would travel. Good buddy of the podcast. If you're a regular listener, you've definitely heard us talk about David.
I don't have the drop.
But we would always get these really good Czech pretzels. They were like always super cheap we would get those. Occasionally we would get like some really cheap bread as well. Just like, as a good like pre-game snack, or you come back and you have the drunchies.
I will say
what have you.
That is the good thing about Europe that we don't really have as easy access to here in the United States, is just the cheap breads, breakfast breads.
For sure.
Because you can, I am making
so good over there.
To be fair, in Europe, you can every day go to just like a local bakery and fill up on some sort of bread for change,
Oh, for sure.
Not change, but for like a euro,
couple
or
bucks.
two. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I still do like the idea of groceries, even just for convenience reasons.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. You know what is another really great cheap travel hack, though, Jared, is just trying to avoid as many general fees and costs, because they will add up over time. For example, if you take a flight, do you really need to check a bag? Check it is when it goes underneath, right? Versus carry it on. So like I'm hoping that I'll be able to go to Germany for a couple of weeks in July. We'll see. Who knows? Could go all sorts of ways.
Good luck. Right. For the last however many years, I think since I was first out of college and really started flying and paying for it myself, I was often on Spirit, and I would do everything in my power to avoid those fees. But now checking, it's so weird because back in the day, like I sound like I'm my grandparents or something.
Back in my day,
carrying on a bag was only about did it fit or not, because for the most part everyone was checking their bags. But now the fees are everywhere. It's not just really Spirit, and so now you're fighting everybody for full-size suitcase space, which honestly was not the case like 10 years ago. 10 years ago and past, I don't think it was as aggressive as a fight for overhead space.
I don't think so either.
But I do everything in my power to not check a bag, to the point where I think I sacrifice some comfort and lean towards a duffel bag where I have a perfectly good sized roller, which honestly at the end of the day is probably about the same space size as my duffel bag, and obviously way more comfortable to lug around. But the roller is obviously a little bit harder to get into overhead, only because you can't stuff it in there. It either fits or it doesn't. And the duffel bag, there's a little bit more space for me to punch it in there. So that's actually, there's my cheap travel hack. If you can, I would say lean towards a soft bag, because then it sort of gives you another likelihood of not having to check your bag.
Right. Well, and that's why I mentioned the whole Germany thing, Jared, because if I am able to go there, I'll be going for 2 weeks. And I'm hoping, we'll see, I can just take my Osprey backpack with me.
I was just about to ask you, how do you feel about those backpack travelers, like the ones but the Osprey you have is not that big. It's a
40 liter.
40 liter, but it's not like, it looks like a normal larger sized backpack. We're not talking about like those, like, if you see like what's the right word? Are you allowed to say hippie?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
This is our own damn podcast.
If you see whatever the hell you hippies want at the airport with like those giant sort of huge
those are like
backpacks.
Yeah, those are usually 70 liters.
Okay, that makes sense that you could travel with that for a couple of weeks. But your size does seem like quite the challenge.
Well,
you got to bring. You definitely have to bring another pair of shoes because you're going to a wedding, aren't you?
Right. So the shoes that'll be tricky. I'll probably have to do tie them around something on the outside of the bag.
So you're gonna wear your dress shoes, or you're gonna have your dress shoes just dangling around on the outside of your
maybe dangling. Now, granted, there are two little. There are two little.
You can also get like a little bag, like a little one of those like cloth bags or something.
Well, actually, I think you're allowed 2 personal items for carry-on usually.
Oh, for international.
Yeah, so I'll have the Osprey, and I'll probably have another backpack. So
you're gonna do double backpack? You're not gonna do like a backpack and a duffel?
I don't know if I have a duffel anymore. I'd have to look.
Okay.
But either way, my whole point here is that I want to try to do carry-on if possible.
Because you can borrow mine if you need it. Mine is pretty small.
Yours is awesome.
So
if it's the same duffel, I do
kind
have
of
a duffel.
Okay.
I had to buy one when I was in the Czech Republic.
Yeah,
I had
of course you do.
Accumulated too much junk.
I was about to say, there's no way you don't. Like, you have everything.
Right.
You're like
I don't know about that.
You're the adult version of when I was a kid and I'd go to like a certain person's house, probably the Joneses' house, and they'd have like every toy. You're my adult version of that.
That's awesome.
You have the coolest toys.
I try, Jared. But yeah, so that's another big one though and also just kind of travel. I think traveling light in general will. Well, maybe not travel light is the wrong term, Jared. Maybe traveling
smart,
prepared, and smart. Yeah,
because I don't think it's not about light per se. It's about light in the sense of what you can manage,
right? But also knowing what you'll need.
But like if you have like a duffel bag that's a roller and it's pretty big, then maybe you're not necessarily traveling light, but that might be a better option than like the full like sort of classical style roller, just because maybe you have a higher chance of getting it into an overhead or something like that.
Right.
Although honestly, even with a big, I'm going to take that back because even with even with a big duffel bag, if it has a roller on it, it still is kind of effectively the same size as a normal sort of standard roller, because it's those rollers within the suitcase that define sort of its footprint anyway. So I don't think it really makes a difference. I say if you can, give up the wheels, but it's a hard thing to do sometimes.
Sure. Well, it depends on your strength level too.
You know the people I don't understand the level of confidence behind this. You know, you talk about anxiety behind the sort of the timing of getting to the airport. Mm-hmm. I don't understand the people, and I've traveled with these people. I know these people. These people are good people. The people that travel with the 4-wheel roller, like the hard shell suitcase. I don't understand why someone would do that to themselves. One, it's heavy as hell.
No, they're not.
Okay, it's not heavy. Fine.
Have you ever had a hard? I could be wrong. I bought a hard shell suitcase in China because it was a 4-wheeler. And it was easier for me to get around.
I understand the convenience of it. I guess my problem is not even the weight. My problem is my obsession with overhead space.
You're just trying to cram your stuff into everything is what it is, Jared.
Because even
in there now.
Even in a classical, cloth roller, even though it is sort of hard on like square, you could still push down on the top of it.
Right.
So you're right. It is just like there's no pushability to this thing. The shape has already been defined and it's final.
You know what's crazy though, Jared, is that roller suitcase I bought while I was in China, I had to kind of take a gamble because there were like 3 sizes. I knew the small one was going to be too small, and I knew the biggest one was what I needed it to fit in the overhead on a train, right?
Which has usually a little more space, right? Because it's open?
Kind of. But the lip only extends out so far. So if you get it too wide, it'll tip over, right? See. Thankfully, it was like just the right size. And I'm assuming they sell them like that at the supermarket for that reason. I bought mine at a supermarket.
I know the use case.
For, I think, $6, $7,
Jeez, man.
something like that. And I have it up in the attic. Still works. I think that was shipped over with my stuff because that one I think was still in my apartment when I had to leave. But when I make it sound like I got deported, when I had to leave, when I left.
I mean, you kind of did. You didn't have an option. Or you did have an option, did you?
Well, I could have flown back, but I would have had to pay for that out of pocket, and then I would have had to also...
And you were still taking a gamble because you had no idea what was going to happen.
Right, exactly. Yeah. But hey, I did finally have Wi-Fi in my apartment.
That's true.
I had Wi-Fi in my apartment for like 2 months, and then I had to leave.
That's true.
But yeah. Another big money-saving tip, though, Jared, is if you can avoid hotels, stay somewhere else, whether that be Airbnb, a hostel, if you're in countries where hostels are safe and are worth staying at. I know some people who couch surf fairly religiously, so they stay for nothing, or they might, give them a little bit of money for food or something like that. But there are certainly, and for me now, I mean, that's why I bought this van, Jared, is to ideally be able to, sleep at places for next to nothing.
We heard last episode, your shock at the idea of having to pay
$60 a weekend is a lot.
Yeah, for a weekend, which I think is a little high. You could definitely get it for cheaper. But still seems like a great deal to me in comparison to an Airbnb.
Still cheaper than a hotel or an Airbnb. That's true.
Yeah, exactly. If you add up how much your gas would cost, and and the stay at the campsite is certainly cheaper than a weekend at most Airbnbs of any size.
So, Jared, you know what my travel on the cheap pro tip is, though, and this is a kind of a difficult pro tip, but if you can, try to befriend people of wherever you're visiting, so if you ever go back there, you have a place to stay.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Get you some homies.
That is beyond me. Like when you said that, it even took me a minute to be like, what?
How does that work? I have to talk to strangers and
sense.
act like I'm interested in them?
Yeah, that is certainly a thing. Is there any place, any country you could think of where you've legitimately made that friend like along your travels, where you'd confidently call that person up or WhatsApp that person and be like, "Hey, I'm going to be in town. Could I stay with you?"
I have 2 or 3 people from Bali that I could probably hit up if I wanted to.
Because I have people from high school, or excuse me, when I lived in Germany, that now live in various places around the world that I might be confident to do that with. Okay. But that's different. I know them from school. It's not like I just ran into them on another journey.
Right. There's definitely been some people in my travels that I've met along the way where I don't know if we're close enough where I would actually want to stay at their place, but I think they're kind enough people where they'd probably either offer or, if I said, hey, my hotel reservations were canceled, would you mind if I crashed on your couch? Wouldn't be ideal, but, what
I was thinking of recently when we were at Usudu and Prague, and we had that conversation with those Americans, and we exchanged numbers, and they're like, if you're ever here, hit me up. If you're ever here, hit me up. That person's name and number is in my phone. I couldn't tell you I couldn't point you to it if my life depended on it
either.
And if I even could remember their name and like be like, I think this is the random name of my contact who it was. I couldn't tell you where they are, when I would use so that's I feel like where I often find myself when I find myself in friendly encounters among my travels, where it goes like that. You share numbers and then forget their name like 2 days later.
Right.
And
well,
then
that's
never
why
use
you
that
have
number.
to meet up with those people that you like. If you meet someone somewhere, you have to go and do something else with them, because then I think
you're
will
both traveling. You're like, oh, let's do some like daytime hangout stuff.
Right.
Where we'll actually have a chance of remembering.
Or even a nighttime hang too,
but
like an early evening. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Something. Yeah.
Like, hey, let's meet up at Letna Park. At 7.
That makes sense.
Something like that.
That makes sense.
But
that's where you actually establish the connection. The first one is just like, we've met. Now we still have to establish some sort of real connection here.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
But I mean, that's kind of the beauty of travel.
I'm not good at asking people to hang out.
Right.
Not that I really wanted to ask that person specifically, but in general.
Sure.
But
Let's
yeah,
see
that
here.
definitely makes sense. That's actually a great tip that I'm going to store in my head because I don't think I ever really thought about that.
There we go. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really useful one, and it can save you. Like, for example, Jared, if this trip to Germany works out, I mean, I'll be going for a friend's wedding. He's kind enough to let me crash at his place. I'm hoping to visit a couple other friends in Germany. The only tricky thing is, once again, right now it seems like things are still pretty locked down, and if they're like that in 2 months, I don't even know if I'll be allowed to go over there. You know, I don't have an EU passport. I'm not a citizen. I don't have a work permit for over there.
I don't know what the vaccine rollout is like in Europe, but
It's
I'm pretty
much
sure
slower than the U.S.
That's what I was assuming. So I don't think you just saying that you're vaccinated carries as much weight as you might think it would. Not
No,
you
I agree with
specifically,
you.
I
Right.
didn't mean like one might think it would. You know,
Right.
like because I feel like
you can still get it. You can still
here
get infected.
in the U.S., I think it's like a get out of jail free card, and people are just like, now we're free to just like, live it up,
Right.
And I don't know. I don't know if the sentiment is the same everywhere else, especially since the vaccine rollout is not as widespread in most other countries.
Right, for sure. Yeah, so we'll have to see. One last big travel hack, Jared, when it comes to saving money.
Don't say last because you don't know that. I have one that I found really interesting that I want to bring up
great.
to you. Just say you have another one.
Great. All right.
we already found the risk with saying last.
One other travel tip I would give you is also choose a place to visit where your money will last you longer. So for example, it might cost a little bit more to get to some of these places maybe, but when you get there, if you spend, a third of what you would elsewhere, maybe, you can factor things in. You might have to do some math and some budgeting, but you might actually save some money. Like, for example, Jared, when I was in Bali, I was there for almost a month, and I think, thinking back how much I spent for just the hotels, I think it was probably about $800 to $900, somewhere around there.
There are definitely certain cities in the world that are undeniably cool, but I'm also not thrilled to visit. Like, I've spent time in San Francisco before, but I stayed with a friend. That's not a city I'd necessarily be that excited to go to if I weren't staying with a friend. Or, for example, even another city in California, Los Angeles, seems like a cool city to visit, but it's like super expensive. Seems like you kind of need a car. Or it's
Right.
like it's like
And
it's
you got
just
terrible
not,
traffic.
even though it seems cool to see it, and I guess I've been there before as a kid, but like even though it seems cool like to hang out there, it doesn't necessarily appeal to me as a place to visit. Just
Right.
because it's financially, I'm already starting on a bad step. Building off of that, though, off of what you said about just a place that's affordable, the thing that I found like a tip that I found that I never really thought of was seek out restaurants in college and university areas or towns.
Oh, yeah. And a lot
That's
of
a
times
great
they
idea.
have good deals. They'll have like a
Exactly.
Taco Tuesday or a college
like a
student
10
Thursday or
cent,
whatever.
like pitcher night or something. That seems
Right.
dangerous. I don't know if that's a deal anywhere. But,
You're looking at a lot of alcohol poisoning after that one, Jared. Well, I just
But they're-
remember in China, in Beijing, where it wasn't the university, but it was where a lot of students hung out. They had different deals where it was like a 50-cent wing day, where
Exactly.
you could get wings for dirt cheap or something like that.
And that's
But
something
yeah.
I never really thought of. And honestly, depending on your age and what you're looking for, you might be able to find like a pretty cool vibe too,
Right. Oh, for sure.
because there's this college-y-ish place that I've been to in Baton Rouge. What is it? Must be close to LSU. Must be close to LSU. That's the only one that
think
would really
so.
make sense. You don't even know what place I'm talking about. I'm talking about there's a specific
Well, I'm saying
restaurant.
Baton Rouge and LSU.
Oh, I no, but Southern University is also in Louisiana
Oh, is
too.
it?
That's
Okay.
the other one that I was thinking, or Baton Rouge, I mean to say. But it is LSU I'm thinking of. And there's this like bar or restaurant that I love to go to. And the thing about Louisiana, Baton Rouge, to me specifically, I always just kind of relate it to old people, just because I'm mostly around old people when I'm there. So whenever I go to like a place like that, it is like super refreshing.
You're a little shocked when you walk in the college bar and it's like people your age. Oh my God!
Yeah. Well, first of all, they're not my age. I can't say that anymore.
That's true.
Now you're getting
old,
to the point
Jared.
where you kind of sound creepy if you're saying these college people are your age.
That's true. You just gotta see, Jared, more the reason to start your grad program. Then you're in college again.
Yeah. Then I can say they're my age again. Yeah, no, these are my peers. What are you talking about?
My peers, yeah. My people, how are you?
But yeah, when I'm surrounded around old people most of the time, going to that restaurant, I'm like, oh my God. This is so freeing. There's young people in music. I can drink beer freely.
You can chug beer. Nobody bats an eye.
No judgment.
Right. Another thing, though, too, Jared, about the restaurant tip, I love the college idea. Another one, too, is look for more local restaurants, and also, too, look at like local. Now, you have to be careful with street food. Depending on the country, street food can make you very sick. And you may not want to eat it, but if it's safe and you feel comfortable eating it, you might be able to save a ton of money getting some stuff from some street vendors or from the local markets. Like I remember when we were in Vienna, if you went to the Naschmarkt, which is this huge market, probably one of the biggest in Vienna, you could get like a huge thing of falafel for like €3.
By the way, that is a great travel trip tip if you're going to Vienna. I mentioned earlier that you should start.
We should do a Vienna travel tips episode at some point.
We have. I mentioned that stopping at the local grocery store thing. Make one of your first tourist attractions in Vienna, Naschmarkt, and you can legitimately go around and find stuff that you can have for the next couple days. I think that's a great tip if you're traveling to Vienna or any city. So many cities, especially outside of the U.S., have some sort of great, outdoor market like that.
And you can buy local food, fresh food, get to try cuisines from the countries where you're staying or the cities where you're staying. Yeah, I mean, it's a win-win on so many levels.
And it's great because those places are used by the locals, but they're also tourist attractions in a weird way. So they do sort of have like a touristy vibe in the way that, at least I'm talking specifically about Naschmarkt, but I can think of a couple other ones. There was one that we used to always go to in Dusseldorf too. But like they do sort of have a touristy vibe to them in the way that like if you like are one of those like obvious tourists, a bunch of vendors will sort of call out to you and sort of try to get your attention to taste stuff and all that. But you can also just shop theoretically as like a local as well if you can. I guess you probably have to be able to speak the language a little bit though.
You know what the other thing is too, Jared? Yes, you need to usually speak the other language. Well, the Naschmarkt, I mean, I heard them speaking some English.
They speak, no, I mean to speak the language just so they don't treat you like a tourist.
Right.
They speak English, at least at Naschmarkt, fine, but they'll treat you like a tourist.
Sure. Well, the other thing too, though, Jared, is make sure you watch our or listen to our episode on haggling and negotiating, because that's another thing. When you go to some of these markets, you might have to haggle, and if you're good at it, it can save you some money. However,
yes. Be bold. If you want to save money, you got to be bold.
Be bold, and you have to look, I think, at haggling as this is all for fun, and I don't necessarily need this, right? If you go into haggling,
you're not hurting anyone's feelings. They're used to this. This is what they do every day, all day,
and they will probably be able to out-negotiate and out-haggle you if you've never done it before.
Exactly, and even what you find as a deal, a lot of times, that's what we talked about in our negotiation episode. What I found to be a deal when the couple times I negotiated in Morocco or Tanzania, where it's like it's still probably a lot more than what a local would have paid for that.
Oh, for sure.
And I felt like, I did it. And they're like, idiot.
Well, one way you can avoid that, though, Jared, at least I know a buddy of mine, he had a driver when he was in, I believe, Jordan. And his driver would go in and grab everything for him because his driver would pay the local price, and my buddy would pay the white foreigner price. So there you go.
I've seen that too. Yeah,
for sure.
It's a good move. It's a good move.
Another, I guess, money saving hack as well, Jared. And this kind of just is an overarching one. Number one, do as the locals do. And under that same vein, take public transportation if you can. I think it's worth trying to learn how to navigate it, learn how to use it. I think that is way better than just hopping in a taxi. You can easily get scammed in a taxi, especially if you're in a country where they have questionable taxi cab drivers. You know, and then
That's
you get
part
to
of the
explore
fun, too.
more. Exactly.
That's part of the challenge.
Exactly.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, and I mean, I just remember all the cool things you can see. Like if you take the streetcars, the trams in Prague or in Berlin, you know, there's just so many great things you can see if you take that public transit. Now, granted, if you're in the U.S., I would say unless you're staying at a city where they're well known for having good public transportation, do not rely on public transit if you're visiting the United States. I just don't think it's a smart idea.
Yeah. Sometimes I will say, and and once again, I don't want to speak for you, but I feel like you'll agree with me. When I'm in certain places, when I'm in certain places where I know the public transit is solid and good, I sort of side eye tourists or people, or you know, that are obsessed with the Ubers or taxis, where it's like you are wasting so much money for no reason. Like, I might get there before you.
Oh, I agree 100%. It was funny. We had when I was visiting Prague with Annabelle, one of our earliest podcast
That's why
guests.
I agree. I remember that.
Yeah, because she was so amazed because the Ubers were way cheaper in Prague than they were in Germany. And I don't even think Uber is a thing in Germany anymore. I could be wrong about that.
A lot of cities do not like Uber.
Right. I just remember her telling me, like, oh, in Germany, I would pay double or triple what I'm paying here, so I'll just get an Uber. And I was like, but you're only going to pay 10 or 20 cents if you take the tram. And she's like, well, the Uber is faster. And I'm like, so we ended up taking the Uber while she was there. And the whole time, every time we stepped foot in the Uber, I was just like, all right, like we can do this if you want, but I would much rather take. But I also kind of knew my way around.
I would so want to like challenge that. I would be like, all right, you get to start. It starts when you.
We totally should have done that.
Or it just starts now. I start going and you take out your phone and start looking for an Uber. The Uber has to come to you.
That would be a fun challenge. That would be a super fun challenge.
And it's not Top Gear used to do challenges like that all the time. And one of the reasons why I used to love that show. And the thing is, for me, it wouldn't even be the win isn't necessarily the fact that she might get there before you. It's how much more before you does she get there.
Right.
Like if it's like 2-3 minutes, I'd say she lost.
Right.
Because first of all, you're on vacation. Those minutes mean nothing, you know? So
or they mean everything, Jared.
I mean, the way our
vacation.
last trip went, they really did.
Right. We were going all the time. That was a wild vacation.
We were on a timetable.
Right. Stay up till 4 a.m. and then wake up at 9 somehow.
Yeah. All right, we got to be somewhere by 9:30. Let's get to it. But anyway,
that was
generally
rough.
Those couple minutes aren't really that big of a loss.
Right.
And I'd still call it, like, it'd have to be like a 10-minute, 5 to 10 minute difference where I'd be like, all right, maybe I have a point, but still I don't think it'd be worth it, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. I just find it so funny when people take taxis or Ubers when you know you could just take, you know, and the other thing is too, Jared, if you're at a place where biking is a thing and renting a bike isn't that expensive, rent a bike.
Yeah, I haven't done that much either. That did really was a game changer my last trip to Chicago, though. Because Chicago, once again, one of those cities that I love to go to, but is an expensive city, so I kind of hate to go to it at the same time.
Right. Well, and driving around in Chicago, forget
exactly.
it. It's
crazy. Exactly.
Crazy.
And Ubers, too, same thing. Obviously, still driving. And so, you know,
it takes forever.
They do have a good public transportation system, but the last time I was there, it was the middle of summer. It was gorgeous. And it was like a couple miles, mile or 2-3 miles, and I'm like, this is an easy ride. It was me and a couple friends. We're young, we could do it, and it was great. I loved it. The tough thing that I have with bicycles sometimes is it depends on what's happening. So it was fun when we used it because we used it to go to the beach and then to go back to an Airbnb. But I'm not necessarily down on using it to go to like a bar or something because I sweat like a pig already. And I don't want to show up
the
there
impression you're trying to leave on the ladies.
my forehead and with like a drenched shirt, which would almost definitely happen. But like, getting sweaty going to the beach you know,
That's why your bike's they're shirtless.
It's like,
Jared.
who cares? You know, it's like I'm going into water anyway. So, and I'm going to be sitting outside where I'm going to be getting more sweaty anyway. So it doesn't really matter. And in that sense, I think it's great. But yeah, I'm down with the bikes too.
Right. One other travel tip. I keep saying last. Sorry. One other travel tip that I would say in terms of if you want to really travel on the cheap is see if there are places where you can legally either camp out with a tent or if it's safe and legal to sleep in your car. I mean, you know, if you're depends on the country and the rules and also how hot or cold it is. But, you know, I know a couple people who have done some road trips and they've just slept. A couple friends of mine from grad school, they had a big SUV. I think they had a Yukon or a Denali or something. And they just folded those seats down. It was a couple, 2 people, and they slept comfy in their SUV and did like a week-long road trip.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, I imagine they were going to a destination. But
Grand Canyon.
But so I was to say, I imagine they were going to a destination where they were going to stay in some sort of establishment, whether it be an Airbnb or a hotel.
I think they
for the drive. They're like, let's just camp in the truck or whatever.
Right, because I think their journey over there was 3 days, and I think they did sleep in the car for 3 nights or 2 nights.
I'd be down with that. I would struggle personally to make that my whole trip. You know, out in the unless there were something like properly outfitted. You know, like you're doing. But just in like a SUV or like a minivan or something like that, I could probably do. Honestly, 3 days is kind of pushing it too. Like that is like it's. I feel like that's easier said than done.
Oh, for sure, yeah. But you know, there are also I've seen some people on Instagram who what I find fascinating is they do tent camping with a motorcycle. So they have very minimal gear, and that to me blows my mind.
I've never been looking for that much of an adventure in my life.
Right? No kidding.
One, to be doing some sort of road trip on a motorcycle, and 2, then to like camp, you know, have all my camping gear, you know, and only have enough gear that you could put on a motorcycle. But yeah, no, I'm going to camp for a couple days. Just with this, and that does sound fun if you're into that, but that does not seem like my personal idea of fun.
Right. I think the other thing too to consider with doing any traveling on the cheap, Jared, is as I mentioned at the top of the episode, you will be in life. There's always sacrifices, right? If you get one thing that's a pro, there might be some other cons, and the biggest cons, in my opinion, of traveling more on the cheap, as I said, is you can potentially lose some time, and you can also lose some comfort. Right? But, you know, if you can stretch that dollar or that euro or that peso or whatever a little bit longer, might be worth it, you know?
Yeah. I think that's a perfect spot right there is that you start from a certain point and the money is just the more money you throw on is just how much comfort or time do you require, you know?
Right. And also, too, what type of... Like, for example, how much time
to you, I should say.
Exactly. How much is it worth to you? But also, how much time are you going to be spending at the hotel or the Airbnb? Or, like, that's why I said some people maybe just doing some tent camping or sleeping in your car might be a better option because if all you need is a place to sleep or maybe a place to, like, make a couple sandwiches and eat and sleep, then, you know, then you can maximize your time doing stuff you enjoy outside or checking out museums, you know, concerts, whatever.
That's why I struggle to grasp that concept because you brought it up a couple times, obviously, with this van and whatnot. And because to me, I feel like every trip I've been on, without a doubt, every trip I've been on, one of the main things I've relied on is having some sort of base to be able to go to, whether it's so I could leave my stuff, whether it's just
that
so
home base is nice.
Whether it's just so it's like I need a couple of hours where I can not have to think about where do I have to go or like what, you know, just because I feel like when you're in your situation that you're talking about, you constantly need to sort of be like on your toes and thinking and preparing, and every trip that I've been on, it's always been nice and sort of crucial to have some sort of base, whether that's one room sort of or a nice hotel room or something like that, you know. or just like some sort of box of a room. It's nice to have some place where it's like, I know my stuff is here and safe, and I can sleep here without having to really concern myself too much with where I'm going to be next.
Right. Well, the home base idea is fantastic. I guess the difference for me is I'm fine with my home base being a bit cheaper with maybe not all the fancy bells and whistles and amenity. Like, for example,
a bathroom,
when I was...
For example.
Exactly. Who needs one of those?
You make it seem like I need turn down service for them to put a pillow on my... chocolate on my pillow every night.
Exactly. And you need a TV in your bedroom, TV in your bathroom.
I asked for a bed fridges. And a toilet.
Exactly.
And a shower would be nice, too, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but if you stay somewhere tropical, they got the showers where you wash off after
just go to the beach and do it.
Exactly. But there are certainly a lot of ways to save some money, cut some corners here and there, Jared, to save your hard-earned dollars. And that, I think, is sometimes the fun part about traveling. Like I mentioned to you, I'm hoping when I start to do a lot more, van travels, is if I can keep my expenses under $100 per weekend, I'm feeling great. That's great. If you can, in terms of gas, food, and camping or whatever other activities you end up doing, if you can keep, like for me at least, that's kind of my budget right now, is if I could keep it under that. So that would be awesome.
Here is the last tip for this episode. Here's the final tip.
Let's hear it.
And you just made me think about it, actually.
Oh,
and
nice.
I think that's a great idea, and I can't believe we never said this. Have a budget. Before you even leave, before you even buy your tickets, have a budget. That's got to be like step... Before, honestly, you even decide where you want to go, I would say, is be like, this is the amount of money I'm going to work within, and this is the amount of money that I've allotted aside for this. Because sometimes even on my trips, if I spend a certain amount of money, it's not about how much money I spend. It's about how much money I spend versus I was expecting to spend.
Yes, exactly. I couldn't have said that better myself, Jared. And it just goes back to the Brazilian Portuguese untranslatable today, which is bring down the painful one. You want to have as few painful ones as possible, which are expensive bills. So I would agree with that.
Exactly. Please, continue.
Yeah, that's a great tip, Jared, and we will end today's episode with that. Have a budget, people. Definitely have an idea of how much you are comfortable spending before your trip. And if you tuned into today's episode, we gave you plenty of other tips to really maximize your spending power on your vacation. So with that being said, let us know your budget and some places where you like to visit on the cheap at untranslatablepodcast@gmail.com. You can check us out on Instagram, Untranslatable Podcast, and on YouTube as well. And also, please, 5-star reviews on iTunes and Stitcher. Let us know how we can make this podcast better for you. So as we say here at the Untranslatable Podcast, dziękujemy, muchas gracias, shishi, and do svidania. Oh man, dude, I gotta say your tough love has probed me. I'm hoping next weekend, gonna finally take the van. You're right. I say it all the time.
So you're still making promises, though. You could have, which is still bold. I respect it, though.
Right.
Where do you think you're going?
Probably somewhere west side of the state or up north. So, but yeah, I got the battery fully charged, so I'm going to test that out. Nice. I'm going to test out my little camping stove once my camping cookware gets in.
You certainly can't have your first trip be with your family. You need just because I feel like
no, I want to do a dry run before.
Exactly. You don't want to embarrass yourself.